All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about a big admission that was made by Deontay Wilder's team, specifically Malik Scott, as it applies to Tyson Fury. And also, it seems like the plans for Deontay Wilder's next steps are being laid out. So we're going to discuss that as well. Please stay tuned through this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the video, like the video, would be greatly appreciated. It goes a long way towards growing the channel. Deontay Wilder's trainer, Malik Scott, speaks out about the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight and shares some insight and a pretty big admission that he makes about the fight and why Deontay Wilder lost to Tyson Fury. In short, he says that Deontay Wilder was irresponsible during that fight, defensively irresponsible in that fight, and that, that was the main reason, or one of the main reasons, that Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder in that match. And I'm telling you, man, I really do like hearing that from Malik Scott, because I think that it's the truth. All during the lead up to the fight and before the fight, when people were talking about who would win, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, the whole time, man, I really, really wanted Deontay Wilder to win that fight. And I knew that Deontay Wilder had a legitimate chance to win that fight because Deontay Wilder totes a lot of power in his hand, and I think he is a much better fighter than people give him credit for. But when Malik Scott says that it was the defense, it was Deontay Wilder's defense and defensive irresponsibility that pretty much laid the groundwork for Tyson Fury to win, I think that he's 100% right. And also, I think that bodes well for Deontay Wilder moving forward. Malik Scott also said that, that was what they worked very, very hard on in training, and that's what they wanted to bring in the fight, but he didn't feel like he had enough time. And I'm paraphrasing here. You can get the article on Mirror UK, but, in short, or in summary, he felt like he didn't have enough time in that camp that they had, to really settle in the defense, better defense into Deontay Wilder. Now, and that, honestly, man, that's a lot of things. That's some things that some other people had said leading into the fight. Some very, very, world-class trainers said coming into the fight, said that, that they liked a lot of what Malik Scott was working on Deontay Wilder with, and you could clearly see that head movement was one of those things. But they said that, especially Jeff Mayweather said, that he wished that they had taken a couple fights, maybe a couple tune-up fights for Deontay Wilder to be able to work on that before he got in the ring with Tyson Fury. And, I think that showed in the fight. Deontay Wilder, and this is some criticism that had come from Canelo Alvarez, and I think Canelo Alvarez is on point about this as well. He's like, when you don't have really good endurance and you don't have good foot movement or, head movement, that's going to make it really difficult in a fight. And I think, to be very fair, just be honest about what you saw with Deontay Wilder, he did have, his head was very still in the middle, for Tyson Fury. And I think, from a bit of admittedly, I'm not a trainer, and, I have my opinions about boxing, which bode out to be true, oftentimes. But, I will say that, I believe that Deontay Wilder, because he's so tall, could get away with not necessarily moving his head side to side a lot because he was so tall, and because a lot of the guys that he's fighting, whether they be 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", really don't have the arm reach to get to Deontay Wilder when Deontay Wilder just pulls back. And that's something that Tyson Fury was able to do, and especially after Deontay Wilder got tired. In the words of Terrence Crawford, when Terrence Crawford complimented Deontay Wilder after the fight, was like, look, man, you got to give Deontay Wilder a lot of credit. That man's got a lot of heart, because he was dead, because he was dead tired from the third round on. So, and when you get tired, just like a lot of trainers said coming into the fight, that's when you resort and you go back to doing what you did before. You saw Deontay Wilder standing pretty much within arm's reach of Tyson Fury with his hands down, like this, or, he was behind the high guard, which allowed Tyson Fury, because he was tired, just to punch around the guard or punch through the guard. And, so I think I appreciate that Malik Scott said that, and that is an admission that he's making. And I doubt very much that it's something that Deontay Wilder is going to have an issue with him saying. And moving forward, I think that is something that those guys can work on. Now, there's also, similarly, there's also talk about what Deontay Wilder is going to do next in his career. And there's rumors that he may be fighting Trevor Bryan, I do believe is the WBA regular champion. I think he won that belt off of Bermane Stavern. And, for me, there's some pluses and some minuses to that. For me, for Trevor Bryan as an opponent, first of all, I think that Trevor Bryan is going to that Deontay Wilder is going to beat Trevor Bryan. Trevor Bryan, I think, is a solid fighter, but he's not the most well-conditioned guy in the world. I don't think he's necessarily one of the top fighters. He's also been very, very inactive. I know that, like, this year he fought a kind of a used up old Bermane Stavern, but before that, it had been a couple years since he's fought. He's promoted by Don King, and Don King is a guy that is definitely gonna, once I heard that Trevor Bryan was with Don King, I was like, okay, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Don King made that fight between Deontay Wilder and Trevor Bryan, because Don King is the type of guy that will definitely throw, his fighters in there, throw them to the wolves. And it'd probably be a good get back fight for Deontay Wilder. But at the same time, you're still going to hear a lot of the same echoes that you get from Deontay Wilder, from Deontay Wilder critics when they say, that Deontay Wilder is not fighting the best competition in the world. I would rather see Deontay Wilder, if possible, go straight to and get the fights with guys like Joseph Parker, I don't know, Joe Joyce, if he can get Joe Joyce, those type of fighters where, that either Alexander Usyk would be fighting or Tyson Fury would be fighting, so that we don't have to hear all this nonsense about how Deontay Wilder's never fighting the top competition, because I don't think anybody would consider Trevor Bryan to be that. Now, the plus side of it is that Trevor Bryan does have a belt. He does have the WBA regular belt, and that may very well put Deontay Wilder, in a position to get a mandatory shot against one of the champions, whoever winds up having that WBA championship after Alexander Usyk. If Alexander Usyk fights Tyson Fury, it would put him in line, to fight. It put him in line to fight Alexander Usyk. So, that could be a good deal for him because of the WBA belt. But all in all, man, I just hope that Deontay Wilder, it takes a fight, and Trevor Bryan may be that fight. To have an opportunity to work on his defense, and to work on the different things that Malik Scott is working on him with. However, at the same time, keeping an eye on the fact that Deontay Wilder is 35, 36 years old. So he doesn't have a lot of time left in his career unless he's, planning to fight until he's 40. And, so I would like to see him get to another championship, a major championship belt fight as fast as he can. And also, more than likely he's not going to be fighting Tyson Fury again. And I don't think a lot of those guys at the top really do pose the same threat as Tyson Fury, specifically to Deontay Wilder. None of those guys are really that slick a fighter, moving around that much. They're not that tall. They're not going to they're that big. And I definitely don't think those guys are going to, if they get caught, are going to continue to get up from those bombs. But, all in all, man, I appreciate what Malik Scott's saying. I got a lot of respect for Malik Scott and his honesty, the respect that he paid to Tyson Fury after the fight was over, all of those things, man. And I think it bodes well for Deontay Wilder down the road. But anyway it goes, man, Deontay Wilder is somebody who's had an exceptional career, and at this point in time can do whatever Deontay Wilder wants to do, and I would support that. So anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section, and with that, I'm out. Deuce.